What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Thank you so much for being here for another video, and I'm gonna bring you guys New World first impressions. Let me start this off very simply. I like the game. The game is fun. I'm enjoying it. Beta was live for about 14 days. I've been streaming it when I can, live over at Twitch. If you'd like to come by and drop a follow and hang out with us, that link is going to be down in the description below. Aside from the initial thought that every single person who's covered New World right now has told you, hey, it's a good game, you should play it, I'm going to go into a 4-part system that I did with my Final Fantasy XIV first impressions as a new player, pros, cons, in between, and what I like to call a breath of fresh air. If you haven't already, be sure to click that like button, be sure to hit the subscribe, ring the ding dong so you can get notified when I upload a new video. And if you haven't, share this with a friend so they can come hang out with us as well. Covering the pros, we're gonna head into the graphics. Just like any game that ever comes out, graphics is always a really big part of it. Granted, I think gameplay is more important, but I'm actually a graphic guy myself. I still think it has a part to play because you want to immerse yourself. I feel like that's important. For this game, I'm gonna rank it a good solid 7 out of 10. Not the best graphics I've seen, but they are damn good. They're immersive, the god rays are amazing, the detail in the armor, the spell effects, it's all really great. And I found myself really immersing myself into the game. It's not just a 7 out of 10, it's a solid 7 out of 10. Crafting and gathering. You can find yourself sinking time into crafting and gathering. When this game first came out, they had the idea of making this a survival sandbox game. Then they turned it into like a PvP survival sandbox game. Then they finalized and said, let's make an MMORPG with PvP and PvE content. There's actually quite a bit of immersion when you're going chopping down a tree and you see the tree fall down. The crafting is a foundation of this game and you can really sink yourself into it. Here, let me show you. So this is the forge, for example. If I show you just this, look at all of these recipes that we can eventually learn to craft. Mind you, this is just for heavy armor and all of the melee weapons. You could do crafting to your heart's desire. And the best part, you can level with it as well as from gathering. So it's definitely going to be a pro in my book. Now to a core component, PvP, which I'm happy about because PvP is near and dear to me. You've got forts that you can defend and assault, wars, which is like this big 50 on 50 assault defense as well. World PvP if you enable into it. If you don't want to go out and be a part of the PvP, you can simply just disable. With all those options, the PvP is going to be a really fun adventure in itself. You have the ability to hide in like bushes, and you can set up ambushes around the corner because of that hiding feature, because you can prone and you can crouch. There's just a wide range of opportunity for something that's PvP oriented, and that just complements it really, really well. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and it already has been from what I've played in the beta. Housing. I don't know what else to say about this. We have another MMORPG that has housing, which I think is a very important thing. It's why it's a pro to add to that immersion. I get to go full on interior design in this game. Don't think I need to go on anymore about it. Another endless opportunity component. So most MMORPGs always go with like the holy trinity where they have tank, DPS, healer, and from those branch out classes. Now, I don't think it's an old style for MMORPGs, but I do like how Elder Scrolls Online kind of introduced that ability to just switch your weapon and kind of give you that freedom of a different play style and not just going, all right, I am warrior, I have big axe, I smash things. Although that's usually the class I play, so I have nothing against that. That being said, it's nice that I can just switch my weapon to a fire staff and life staff and go, hey, look, I'm a caster now. Just like that. I think there's a really cool element to add, not only because of how quickly you can switch things, but it also makes it to where you're not going to get denied groups because, oh, I'm not, you know, the tank, or I'm not this class. Final Fantasy XIV did this really well with having one character, but being able to do multiple jobs. The world and what can be done with it is my last pro of the game. You might be asking yourself, why is that a pro? The land for what we see in the world they've offered us is quite large for what it is, especially given the fact that we don't have any mounts. Keep in mind, what we saw in beta is not everything. As to my knowledge, once the game goes live, we actually will see more territory unlocked or visible to us. They just didn't give us everything at closed beta. Don't quote me on that, but that's to my understanding. Right now, what we have is a large island that's surrounded by an ocean. Given the inspiration that they've clearly pulled from and the timeline that this kind of takes place in, you could very easily add a very big pirate theme. possibly some naval battles. Black Desert Online did this, Arcade did this. Very easily could be done. I think would add a very cool concept to it as well. There's just a lot that they could do with this world as it sits foundationally, and that's important because that means it's something that they can easily grow upon. The cons, I've got just two: questing and realistic movement. Let's talk about the questing first. Just to be blunt and honest, the questing is dull and it lacks depth. Grab this, go get this, return this. I cannot hold that against the dev team because they did a drastic change in 1 year from alpha to closed beta, where they said they were going to add more PvE content because they were listening to their community. I'm not too upset by it, but it is a clear con. The quests in WoW, before they revamped a lot of them, and Kata, and I think a little bit beforehand, were 100%, but people still played the game. The same thing could be said for kind of New World. A lot of the quests aren't very entertaining, but that doesn't mean they couldn't change it in the future when it's something that they can eventually bring up. You don't have to make every single thing in your game perfect to make it interesting. You just have to build a strong enough foundation for you to build upon it. Now, realistic movement. You don't play a game and go, wow, this was so realistic. I cannot wait to play this game again. I just do what I do in real life, but in this world. To an extent, that does apply, but I think it just makes it really weird and clunky and kind of janky in its own regard. For example, if I strafe, if I'm running and I want to go the other direction, I do this weird pause thing like this. It stops you for a second, right? It's nothing too daunting where it doesn't make me not want to play the game. I think if they just did away with that, they would be in a much better off position. It's cool, but it's not necessary. The in-between, PvE mechanics and variety. Now keep in mind, please, this will change. They've had a year to add a lot of PvE stuff. What I mean by this for right now, though, is I don't hate it. I don't love it. Most of the fights from the AI are predictable and you can read their telegraphs pretty easily. It kind of makes it a little bit more of a predictable fight and repetitive, so it just becomes tedious. Same thing with like the dungeons. When I was doing the dungeons, I noticed a big lack of actual PvE mechanics, maybe things you had to step out of. That's like kind of like the basic MMORPG Dungeons 101, put shit on the ground that you have to get out of. Destiny is a really good example of this in my opinion. So Destiny, being a MMORPG influenced game, they have really cool mechanics even though it's not your traditional MMORPG style. Their PvE is really engaging. So they just need to kind of take some hints from that and kind of use that as inspiration to add some more mechanics to their dungeons. And then I think that would be for a really thrilling experience. The combat is something that I know a lot of people wouldn't want to say, are you kidding me? That's a clear pro. Yes, it is. This does more tip in the pro department, but it's still an in-between. The reason why I say that is I love the weight behind all of the abilities. It gives you that really great moment of satisfaction. And I love that. However, the lack of skill animation canceling and being able to weave that into your rotation, so to say, it kind of makes for this little slow, clunky feeling to where like once you use an ability, you're very dedicated to it, right? Be a proactive player. Yes, that's true, but it's more fun when you can be proactive and reactive, not have to be forced into one or the other. And this one feels like you're just always proactive and there's minimal reactiveness. Slower, yes, but sometimes it actually has that clunker to it. Removal of stagger. This is a really hot topic. I can take it and I can leave it. It existed in the alpha and it did add additional weight to the abilities, especially the melee ones when you use them on people and like from the heavy attacks. But I also don't want to get stunned for an entire fight and feel like getting maced combat rogues back from BC. The dungeons. I know I touched up on this. The design of the dungeons are very immersive and so engaging. But going on to my previous point, that lack of PvE mechanics that really gets you involved in with the dungeons, it just feels like this hack and slash, get through each boss, get your loot and go. This isn't Outriders. Breath of fresh air is probably my favorite topic to discuss when I've done these first impression videos. It's nice to enter a game and feel that breath of fresh air, especially when it doesn't feel like it's something that's just been recycled. And I think New World's done that primarily with their survival style that they've added into the MMO, which actually happened by accident because of how they transitioned away from their original intention of the game to an MMORPG. This honestly kind of feels like an online Skyrim, especially if you played with survival mods and stuff like that in Skyrim, which I did. They've found like a nice balance between like survival and MMORPG, and it's created this like neat little niche, like I said. The last bit is something that I don't think a lot of people have noticed, and some might disagree with me on it, but it feels like a high magic, low fantasy setting. The reason why I kind of like seeing that is because now it kind of feels like Game of Thrones. You don't have all these different types of races, but you still have fantastical things like dragons and magic. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for that, especially for future lore. That's my opinions. That's my honest first impressions about New World. I'm looking forward to this game no matter what. I will be playing this on release. Drop a like, drop a subscribe. I'm going to be covering content on New World. And if you have any comments about the game, please put them down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. This is a new game, New World, new game. So let's use this as constructive criticism to further development of the game, because I really feel like this game's got a strong enough foundation to be an MMORPG that has longevity and can retain a big player base. But we'll see what happens. But that's it for now, guys. Y'all be awesome. I'll see you next time. Much love.